Welcome to the Wellness on Tap podcast with your host, Dr. Debs Eastwood.
Cool. So today I have the huge pleasure and privilege of having Ken Dunn sitting opposite me. So Ken is a remarkable chap who I met first a couple of years ago now at the most, through a networking group on social encounters. Ken's very, very good at regaling people with his stories because they are truly, truly heartbreaking, heartwarming, and fascinating. Bit of an adventurer, but not from a typical adventuring background. Well, that depends on your view of school, I suppose. So, tell us a little bit about how the incredible work that you're doing first started.
Well, bizarrely, it was through a photograph. I actually won a national photographic competition, and the prize was a trip to Africa for 6 weeks for two people. My wife had just given birth to our son Thomas, so she couldn't come. So Karen had to look after Thomas, and me and my brother swanned off to Africa for 6.5 weeks. And just to contextualize that, up to that point, I had done a lot of expeditioning to the Andes, to the Himalayas, to far-flung corners, the Yukon and Canada and goodness knows where else. Taking young people to push themselves, to forge that character, the personal development stuff. But actually, we were passing through communities and not working with them. And that didn't sit with me, particularly the Kashmir Himalayas and the Bolivian Andes. You see people clinging to an existence. And here we are swanning around with our 1,000-pound cameras swinging around our necks. And it was when I went to Africa that I very much was looking for communities that I could engage with. And bizarrely, it was in the mountain kingdom of Lesotho that I found, I found my nirvana.
That's fabulous. So a bit of an adventurer, a bit of an explorer, definitely not your beach holiday kind of guy. Not the time to sit around the pool. So you have an affinity with mountains? Does that have anything to do with it?
It surely is. You know, I really feel at one with nature when I'm in the mountains, and you get me just coming back from climbing Mount Stromboli, an active volcano, and Etna, which blew up the morning that we were climbing it. So I am at one with the mountains, but actually the mountain kingdom of Lesotho is a perfect fit, you know, for me, because my background's geography and geology. We've got a beautiful kingdom in the sky. It's called the Kingdom in the Sky, Lesotho, completely surrounded by the Republic of South Africa. And I've been working there for now 25 years. I've also got an affinity with Tanzania, Kilimanjaro, with Kenya, Mount Kenya, and Tanzania, Mount Meru as well. Big mountains in the three highest in Africa, but also in Uganda, which is very mountainous, and with a community which we'll come on to in a moment, and in a very cool named place. It's called the Impenetrable Forest.
Oh, yes.
Impenetrable Forest, but it's not impenetrable because I've penetrated it 5 times.
We'll leave that one for after 9 p.m.
Yeah, no, but working with communities. So actually a real shift away from adventure and personal development focus to community interaction, to working together, working with and not working for and not doing to, which is all too much done, unfortunately, in the global south. And actually, God gave me 2 very large ears. So, and having been a teacher for many years and a senior leader for 6 years, listening is seriously important. And active listening is a very, very important skill. And I've been blessed to have had the opportunity to go into communities to listen to the matriarchs of those communities. And you hear through all the noise, and you really get to understand need. And then gently we arrive at, okay, so what are we going to work on together to address that need? And where are the priorities of need? Because particularly when, you go to the global south, it can be overwhelming. It really can. You can actually get confronted with a plethora of emotions and scenes and smells and the like, and you've got to be guided. And actually, the Methodist Church says that the local communities, their development organization says that local communities have got a PhD in their own community.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes we from the north can come in and be very dogmatic and we think we know best. And we don't listen. And we just do too. Yeah. And that's where all of the white elephants lie dormant, and so going and listening to need and then addressing that, in community, by community, for community has been such a privilege. And when that happens, it moves you. It really does. And it makes you highly motivated to be the change agent that the community wish you to be.
So what was it then? What was the thing, when you found the thing that you could actually help with the community, not do to, like you say, but actively do something useful?
Yeah, I mean, bizarrely, it was smoke. And the smoke from cooking.
Okay.
And what perhaps listeners will not be familiar with is that today on planet Earth, 2.3 billion people every day are cooking on an open fire. And we're not talking about throw another shrimp on the barbie, Australians, on Bondi Beach, but we're actually talking about community members around the world who are making fire because that's the only means by which they have to cook. So they're either cooking using wood or dung. And dung's way too important to be burning. That needs to be recycled back into the soils. So they're harvesting, and sometimes they're aggressively harvesting fuel wood with which to cook with. And again, for listeners, this is not your utopian alpine lodge with logs cut in the eaves and drying beautifully, and a lovely warm fire with a wool rug in front. This is 3-stone cooking. So you've got 3 stones upon which a pot sits, a big pan sits, and you then make fire, and you feed that fire, and you're locked into a wholly consumptive way of cooking. And this is it's gruesome. It is absolutely awful. And I've it's probably not the best thing for me to do because I've got slightly asthma now. But actually, I go into communities, and we have developed a product that can actually cut through the drudgery and cut through the problem. But let me first identify the problem.
Yeah, please do.
The world's not fair, and gender imbalance is profound in the global south and other parts of the world. But actually, what you tend to find is lots of women, elderly women, young school-age children, actually going off with a bow saw or with a machete, off to the bush, off to the hillsides, and cutting, and then bundling up and carrying fuel wood back to where the cooking fireplace is going to be.
And I guess that gets further away all the time as well.
It does indeed, and you know, the journey time is greater, so that's more load on the shoulders of those young people and elderly people. But also there is risk of journeying far away from your village to collect wood. But not so much in Lesotho, although there are incidences of rape and molestation of those young girls going to collect the wood. And I've actually had one young girl say to me that our intervention has prevented her from taking her own life.
Oh my goodness.
Because she had been raped. And she no longer wanted to go back to the place of that trauma.
Unsurprisingly.
But actually, let me just take a moment. But so you've got the situation where female community members are actually going off to the mountains. They're harvesting wood. They're carrying that wood back. They're then going off again and they're harvesting water. And they're carrying water. Now, if you've ever come from the supermarket, dare I say it, with a couple of bottles of wine in your carrier bags.
Oh no, never.
you know the weight of liquid. So, but actually these young ladies are actually carrying between 10 and 15 liters of water in a bucket on their heads. I've got imagery of this. And they're carrying this up a gorge side. So
that's no mean feat.
It's just crackers, you know. It's just and I actually took a National Young Farmers group out and I said, right, you're going to be a community member for a morning. I said, please do not fill your buckets with water. And all the women, all the young women said, okay, that's fine. Some of the young men said, no, I'm going to fill the bucket. I can do this. The following day, they were all aching with bent spines and poor necks and so forth. It's brutal, you know. So actually they're carrying water, they're carrying wood, and then they're actually making fire. And actually, if you go back to, we love making bonfires every 5th of November, right? It's a
novelty,
it's
isn't
a novelty
it?
for us. It is, and the start of that fire. If you just picture this, right, starting a fire, often there is the point where when you make fire, there is smoke to start with. So I actually shot a piece of video up in the mountains of Uganda, and the mum there is making fire in a little tin shack because it rains, it's windy, and it has the fire has to be contained within.
Okay.
So and we'll show this video, but actually a little shack of galvanized zinc. She makes fire from kindling. 3 seconds into that video, you hear this rasping cough of her 2-year-old daughter, Kayla. Now, birthdays are not celebrated in this community until they reach 5 years old because the child mortality is so high.
Oh.
And this video is 19 seconds long, and the room just fills with smoke. So smoke inhalation was the thing that hit me when I first went to the mountain kingdom of Lesotho in the year 2000. And I thought, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I asked permission to go and meet the local clinic nurse who did everything from cradle to grave. And bless her, she'd done a full day. And I plonked my bum on a seat in front of her and said, May Makaliso, can you tell me, is smoke a problem in your community? And she sat in a chair and she pierced a stare that went into my soul, it did.
Yeah.
And she said, and Daddy Ken, Mr. Ken, she said, I can tell from someone's physiology what season, almost what month they were born in because of smoke. Smoke is killing my babies. It's killing my elderly.
Oh, bless you, love. It's just a testament to the effort, the dedication.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, love.
This is...
Take your time.
This is happening now.
Yeah.
In 2024. She says, killing my babies. It's making my pregnant mums have premature and underweight births. And so, yeah. And so we said, is this something... So I said, yeah, is this something that we should be working on? And she says, most definitely. And so we looked at the statistics around, this is from the year 2000 to the year 2003, 2004. We looked at the statistics around mortality from nothing other than cooking your meal.
Okay. Which should be happening in every household.
Every household, and the World Health Organization state this year there are 700 million people die. In 2024, there are 700 million people die from nothing other than inhaling the smoke from the fires upon which they cook their meals. It's just extraordinary. So, we and what you see is community members typically getting bundles and bundles of wood, buckets and buckets of water, and then making fire, bringing a pan of food to the boil. And then when it's boiling, the community member will take a cloth. They'll take the cloth. They'll take the hot pan lid off. As they take the hot pan lid off, steam rises, but so too does the micronutrients in their food. But they stir the pan to stop the beans from sticking to the bottom of the pot. It'll not be meat unless it's on a funeral or a wedding. They top the pan lid. They top the pan up with water. They put the pan lid on, and they feed the fire, and they repeat
all day.
And they repeat, and it's at 3.5 to 4 hours of cooking for one meal, just for one dish of beans. So that will come off, and they will make the staple, which is they'll boil water and add ground maize flour and make the pap, the mashed potato equivalent. And the beans and the pap will be the meal. But that will take hours. And that will take hours of water, hours of wood. But critically, it'll take hours of the cook. And she will be locked to that process. If she tries to do what us men are not very good at, multitasking, if she tries to go and do other tasks, she runs the risk of that pan boiling over, and nobody's happy when a pot of food is spoiled. And gender-based violence is a very real thing throughout all of the areas that I work. It's something that we're working on with Sheffield Hallam University, and shortly with the police as well from Lesotho and South Yorkshire. But yeah, so this cooking process is wholly consumptive.
Okay.
It is very, very damaging, but it's mind numbing. And
Yes.
I come back to
Every day.
the incidence of suicide. Lesotho is the nation with the greatest suicide rate of any in the world. And I've actually had young women who have expressed just how sick and tired they are of actually cutting wood, carrying water, and stirring beans.
Yeah.
And if you've been, and I'm an educator, I've been blessed with a wonderful education, and I've been teaching for 20 odd years, 24 years, and that's where the grey hairs come from.
Definitely, brave man.
But secondary school education too, and actually, if a young person has been blessed with an education, and they've got an insight into the outside world, and they've got a phone that now gives them an insight into all of this glamour, all of this crazy world of consumerism, that many people aspire to. And their reality is one of being in the space, repeatedly collecting water, collecting wood, and not being able to use their innate abilities, then it is crushing.
Yeah.
And so all the more motivating is when you can smash through that.
I mean, the just complete Groundhog Day drudgery of that, to us that are blessed enough to live in a society where none of that is necessary, is just almost unimaginable, isn't it? I mean, we have a bad day when we have to do the same thing twice in a row, never mind have a whole lifetime of it to look forward to, where you're damaging your health and risking, assault by leaving the village on your own.
Yes.
I can't possibly imagine. So I get a small insight into your motivation, and your passion just shines through. I mean, how on earth did the idea conceive of how you could help?
Well, I mean, I went back and I went, help. That was it. I came back and I went to I was teaching in Barnsley and then in Sheffield, and I went to the University of Sheffield engineering department. Met this absolutely wonderful soul, God rest his soul now, Professor Chris Wilson, in mechanical engineering. One of the best departments on the planet in the University of Sheffield. And we got our heads together and we came up with all sorts of weird and wonderful technological solutions. Rocket stoves, would you believe, right? So a vortex that actually with fire bricks that would actually combust the smoke. So this amazing bit of kit, and we tested it, and we then got some funding from the United Nations to do field testings of rocket stoves in Lesotho, and they were fantastic.
There's a but, I can sense
There's
it.
a but.
There's a but.
They were fantastic when they were maintained. Right. Now, maintenance, and I must confess that my gender are not pretty good at maintenance. But actually, the maintenance of a stove was simply to leave the bottom of it free of ash so that the vortex could work.
Okay, all right.
But actually, what we found in it was irrespective of the amount of sensitive introduction of the stove by community members, not by foreigners, right? But actually by community members introducing it sensitively, we still didn't get the maintenance of the stoves.
No.
And the ash would build up. And so the stove that was beautifully engineered became a bucket. In which you actually deposited your sticks, to burn. And it went from being smokeless to just being a bucket that had all of the low temperature smoldering of wood, because smoke is unburnt carbon, and actually you've got to really get it to a high temperature to actually get the energy out of that wood into heat, not into smoke.
So what was next?
So while we were doing this, along came a woman in the community who was actually modifying her mum's old recipe of actually putting cushions and wrapping a pot in a blanket, a big woolen blanket. If you go to the Olympics and you see the Lesotho come to the Olympics, they actually wear a big, heavy woolen blanket. That's part of the tradition. The ladies were wrapping the blanket around the pot. And we thought, right, let's take that insulation idea and move to the next stage, and we there was a lady in Lesotho that we were encountering. She was actually making a bag, and the bag was filled with polystyrene balls, and I went to meet her, and she was actually deconstructing post-consumer polystyrene waste with a stick with 3 nails on it. And that squeaky, that white horrible polystyrene stuff. She was taking these into balls and filling chambers with that. And these were great until something poked through the fabric and these polystyrene balls were going everywhere. And we thought there must be something else. Well, we then actually came across a lady who was actually making these from polyurethane foam. And we actually bought a lot of bags at cost price from her to bring these into community. And they were working. We could actually see a transformation. And then we actually evolved that even further into a bag that was 100% biodegradable, because again, the polyurethane foam worked as an insulation, but polyurethane at end of life is not a safe product for the planet. And the bags were actually made out of polyester. And I wanted to actually go to a 100% biodegradable product. So we actually went for a bag that is filled with organic material and is made from 100% biodegradable cotton.
So the point of the bag then is?
The point of the bag is to completely change the way that you cook.
Okay.
Now you can imagine the challenge that people face, and again, this is something that needs to be done very sensitively by community for community. A little white guy coming in with a hairy beard saying, "Hey, what your mother and your father and your grandmother and your grandfather have taught you how to cook is all wrong." That's not going to fly.
No,
and quite rightly. So what we do is we do by learning, and doing is learning. That's been my ethos right through my educational career. Rather than talk about it, go do it and share it. And so we actually devised this bag, and we said, right, instead of 4 hours of cooking, you can do 25 minutes of heating.
Okay.
So instead of bundles and bundles of wood, you need 4 sticks, 4 pieces of kindling. And then you bring your food to the boil. And when it's boiling hot, in a pan with a secure lid, with no steam hole, all right? So you're trapping in all of that heat. You bring your food to the boil. The only water that you use a little bit of water to wash the beans, but the only water that you use in this process is the water in the pan. You're not taking the pan lid off and stirring and topping up. You're bringing the pan to the boil. And in this boiling pan of food, you take and you put into a heavily insulated bag. And you take the pan from the fire, and it goes into the bag, and you lock the heat into the bag.
And the nutrition.
And the fire gets put out. All of the nutrients are locked inside that bag. But the key thing, the beautiful thing, is that the cook is then free.
Yes.
She is no longer locked to the fire. And I went and when I got this happening, I was like Tigger with a new spring. I was bouncing, and I thought, I've got to get somebody to come and independently assess the impact of this, because I'm seeing it, I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
But I need somebody cold and objective. And I said, so I went to Sheffield Hallam University, and I said, look, you guys, I said, I know you're really about, student experience. I said, come and give me some of your students. I'll give them an experience, but in return, you come and measure some impact for me. So we had master's students, we had undergrads come to Lesotho, and we had a simple questionnaire, which was, how are you getting on with the cook bag? And it was utterly amazing. Yeah, I'm a big girl's blouse, me, I tell you, but
it's just showing your passion, and it's.
But no, we went in and the users of the bag, and we thought we were going to get things about the nutrition of the food and the lack of hours of harvesting wood and harvesting water, which is real, which is numerical. But what was even better was the stories. So we went and we said, how are you getting on with the cook bag? And this lady, she said, thank you for giving me my life back. And she just hugged the 24-year-old bright young thing. And they cried on each other's shoulders.
Yeah, I bet.
It was beautiful. And actually, what she then went on to say was, so look what I've done with my time. And that was a thing, what cooking traditionally does, and it is a development issue. It is a very serious development issue, because what cooking does is locks women into time poverty. If you are spending hours collecting wood, hours collecting water, and then 3.5 to 4 hours every day feeding a fire and cooking, you've got no time for anything else.
No, and I guess you've got children to look after as well, haven't you?
And a demanding man as well. That's the other thing, right? So our cook bags are good for your sex life. Because they actually de-stress. I mean, seriously, there has been evidence of a reduction in gender-based violence because of the introduction of this bag. And you think, how on earth can this bag de-stress gender-based violence? And you think, well, actually, the lady is no longer away. Yeah. She's no longer tired. She's no longer smoky. She's no longer dirty. She's no longer, at a wit's end. She's got more time for men. And us men, we need bloody pampering, don't we?
Oh, yes. Time heavy.
Yeah, time heavy. We're time heavy. We seriously are. But actually, no. So the women, so one of the things we were saying was, how are you getting on with the cook bags? And we were just getting bombarded with statements. So one lady's immediate response was, my eyes are no longer cloudy.
Wow.
So this is after 4 months of using the bag. Her eyes had actually healed. So blindness, smoke is the biggest cause of blindness in the global south, and it's because the cataracts, come from all of this really aggressive attacking from the smoke. So this lady was saying, my eyes are no longer cloudy. Another lady said, come and let me see what I've done with my time, and it's so pertinent right now because the Prime Minister of Lesotho has just declared a state of emergency in the nation over food insecurity, which is political speak for hunger.
Okay.
And he's saying that 2% of his nation oh dear, it's as if I'm doing this for effect. Oh dear. 2% of his nation are going to perish in the next 7 months through not being able to feed themselves. This lady was saying, come and show me. Let me come and show you. Sorry. This lady said, let me show you what I've been doing with my time. And she's been making raised cooking beds, raised planting beds, little kitchen gardens, if you like. They're called keyhole gardens. And she was actually making these keyhole gardens and growing fast cropping vegetables. And she was succession planting and she was companion planting. We've actually set up workshops in the community and she absolutely got it. So a leafy plant next to an onion. The onion keeps the bugs away from the leafy plant, and we plant every 2 weeks. So you get a flush of, so she actually did one keyhole garden, and the water retentive keyhole gardens, they're amazing, these things. They're 3 meters in diameter. You can Google keyhole gardens. You start with manure, then straw, then wood ash. Other way around, straw, manure, wood ash, straw, manure, wood ash. You saturate each layer and then you cap it off with topsoil. But so you've got a garden, a circular garden with a little slot into the middle, which you can garden at waist height. But you trap in the water, the moisture below the surface so that the sun can't desiccate your garden. And you shade net it or you put polythene over it. Well, my man to May had actually got 9 of these in her garden. And she was into it. She was seriously into it. And she was actually growing way more than she needed. So she was an entrepreneur. She was actually taking the foodstuffs to the local tourist lodge and selling to the lodge for the tourist. Now, another lady was actually very skilled at crafts, and she was actually making angels. And she was making angels, and these angels are gorgeous. And they're little circles with a painted face, with a paper clip poked in the top, and in this beautiful Sheshwe dress, the local cloth of Lesotho made them into an angel for hanging on a Christmas tree. Oh, cute. And I went and I said, "Oh, my Pinky, these are absolutely gorgeous." And she says, "Well, I've now got the time because I'm cooking with the bag." And
that's just brilliant. Prior
to the bag, I just didn't have the time. And I was wanting to do these. I've been doing them in scraps of time, but now I can do it at scale. And she's selling these to the lodges. Well, I went and I said, "I want £300 worth of angels to take back." And she said, "And Daddy Ken, you don't know what this means."
Oh, bless. Oh, this is gorgeous.
It was beautiful. And so I actually, I said, "I think I do." And she says, "No," she says, "this single purchase is going to put my son in college to be a car mechanic." So the power of pure trade, is very real. So just story after story after story of impact. But then, there is a real health impact, in terms of respiratory health. And I would love to do a longitudinal study of those community members and we've actually touched thousands of lives, but we need to touch millions,
yes,
hundreds of thousands, because this bag is now being made in community, by community, for community. And it's being made out of local waste material. So in the tropics, we're making it out of coconut fiber from the husk of the coconut. Up in Uganda, we're making it from pine straw. And 100% cotton cloth, so that it's very robust. And we've actually made a cooking book and top tips on how to cook, what to cook, how long to cook how long to heat on the fire, how long to cook in the bag.
Didn't you test it by combining one of your hobbies?
We did
with a cook bag.
We did. We actually took a foam-filled cook bag, And we were climbing Kilimanjaro, as one does. And I said, well, look, when you go to the Kilimanjaro National Park, you have to hire porters and guides. It's their big cash cow as a tourist attraction. And so I said, right, well, if we're actually, I said, first off, I said, we only need one gas container. And they said, no, you need 4. I said, no, we only need 1. We only need 1. And we're going to use these. And we actually brought the bags. And they said, what are you on? Guys, we're going to nut here. And I said, no. I said, so if we're cooking and we're carrying all the food up the mountain, we're actually going to cook our evening meal at breakfast time.
Yep.
And so we did. And we put our evening meal, a beautiful lamb stew in the bag, and locked in. 8 hours later, I'm saying we carried it up the mountain. A wonderful guy called Amari actually climbed the mountain carrying this bag. And he's there, and I'm saying, pose there. I've got a nice picture of Kilimanjaro in the background. You've got the bag there. And I said, tell your friends that you're cooking. And so we got to the first camp. And I said, and all these guys are saying, can we see? And I said, come. And I said, now you must open the bag, but be careful, the pan will be hot. And they said, no, we put it in 8 hours ago. It's not going to be. And we opened the bag, and the guys actually, for some reason, they actually touched the pan with the back of the hand.
Yeah.
The back of the hand on the pan, and went sizzled the back of the hand, and then they were calling each other over, saying, "Hey, come on, burn yourself on this."
An invitation.
And I said, enough already, enough. I said, just take the pan lid off, and I said, have a look at the stew, right? But that's mine. That's ours. That's the groups. That's the group's food, and the food was perfectly cooked. So we did that all the way up the mountain. And what we did on summit day is we went to bed in the afternoon. We got up at 11 o'clock. We made porridge at midnight. We put porridge in the pan, and we climbed up in the dark to get dawn on the summit.
Oh, how beautiful.
And you felt as if you were the only people on earth.
Yeah.
And I've got this beautiful image of dawn, and the pastel colors of dawn, and the shadow of the mountain that we're standing on cast over the savannah below, because the sun's rising, relative
So
to
that's
where
your
we are.
photography, your cook bags, and your mountaineering all in one go.
All in one, yeah. That was beautiful. We were serving porridge to the people that were summiting that morning from the cook bag. So this cook bag is one of the big passions that we have. Being able to cook clean, being able to cook time efficient, fuel efficient. Of course, there is a carbon connection to this, because we are actually reducing the amount of CO2 that goes into the atmosphere. And we've calculated that from field tests. I'm actually working with the University of Sheffield's researchers on precise figures, but thus far we've actually got the bag prevents 2 tons of CO2 being released into the atmosphere per year.
Oh my goodness gracious me.
So we are very hungry to actually look at formal accreditation for the bag, to actually get it accredited, gold standard carbon offset verification. And there is no smokes and mirrors here, pardon the pun.
Oh, I like the pun.
But actually there is absolute transparency.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying to any company that's out there, that's actually interested, that is truly interested in looking after our beautiful planet, well, here is a project that they can engage with, and not just give us the money for their carbon, but actually come with us, come and actually make these bags, come and bring these bags to life. I call them activations. And it's the most joyous thing. You've got a community of real skeptics looking at the community activists who are bringing this to life.
That sounds amazing.
And then when they taste the food and they've seen the bag sitting in front of them for 4.5 hours. It's not been touched. It's been under the guard of the local chief.
Yeah.
And they open the bag, they taste the food. They're absolutely blown away with this. And then, of course, they're wanting these bags. Now, the big challenge for us is, as a charity, of course, is to actually get sufficient funding, not only to make the bags, but also to get them to community members at an affordable price. Now,
of course.
Now, we do not believe in the big I am. I'm the donor and you're the poor recipient, touching the forelocks. Thank you, my lord. But actually, it's actually more of actually us really heavily subsidizing the purchase price, making that purchase price accessible.
Yeah.
And so it's often a 90% subsidy on the purchase price of the bag, because the community that we are wanting to reach the most are those with the least money.
Yes, of course.
And actually, this is, if you give something away for free, it's not the same as if you've actually saved up. I remember saving up for my first bike.
Yeah.
And it meant something, meant something really meaningful to me. It wasn't given to me just one shiny day, it was something that I worked for.
Yeah.
And so I looked after that bike. I passed my cycle proficiency test with that.
Oh, I remember doing that. Yes.
Yeah. But so it's about accessibility. It's about it being meaningful. And so what we find is when we actually have that modus operandi, we don't actually have bags sitting as trophies on shelves. The bags are actually being used, because a small amount of money. And again, we went just recently with a group from Sheffield Hallam, and we went and we did a demonstration. The community members did a demonstration for us. And this lady said, I'd love a bag. And we said, well, that's 100 Rand. So that's £4.50. And this lady said, it will take me 4 months to get £4.50.
That's
and the
sobering.
Kids, the students were looking at each other. We had a golden time in the evening, a reflection time in the evening, and they said £4.50. And one of them said, I want to pay £4. I want to pay the £4.50. I said, you can't.
Yeah.
I said, you've got to be tough. You've got to be. You've got to let this process run through, because you go in and subsidize the whole thing, it just upsets the apple cart for everything.
Yeah.
So what we're after people coming and enabling us to make the bags, procure the materials, and I'll come on to some of the materials that we're using perhaps in Lesotho, but also then get the bags to community members. Now, if a company is wanting to offset their carbon, we can put their logo on the bags if they want. We can make the bags, we can design the bags to reflect their company, but actually, I would love for some of those company employees to walk the talk and actually be part of an experience to bring these bags to life, because they will feel it in their hearts forever. And they will be changing a family's lives, every mealtime from their carbon offset. Carbon offsetting is a minefield of real sharks and horrible people,
I would imagine,
who are only about money for themselves. And I've seen too many people in my life that are just they're miserable as sin, but because of money. But actually, what I would say is that that's a very real offer. And Africa's Gift, my charity, runs volunteer visits to enable people to come and be part of this. And actually, I'm just about to publish a visit in November, at the end of November into December this year, for the latest visit, where people can come and bring these bags to life. Yeah.
Can I ask you, because coming on from that, a lot of the core of that, not the sole core, but a lot of the core of that was around health. And you've gone one step further and you've looked at health and how people locally can treat themselves and heal themselves, because they're not subject to big pharma like we are over here in the West. And most of big pharma's recipes, let's face it, originated in plants.
Indeed.
And you have another project, because you're not busy enough, are you? And I'd love you to spend just a few minutes talking about that, if you would.
Yeah, well, that comes back to an interaction in Uganda in 2016, where we were actually in the impenetrable forest in Bawindi, which is as a geographer, it's right in the southwest corner of Uganda, where Uganda meets Rwanda in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's a beautiful mountainous area, lots of volcanoes as well. One very, very impressive volcano, but it's in DRC. We're not allowed to go to it. It's got an active lava lake, and you can climb to the top of the mountain and look down at the lava lake.
To death.
Nyiragonga. When it's safe, I want to go there, but it's not safe at the minute. And there are, unfortunately, because it's gorillas of the other kind, not the hairy kind that are at play there. But in Bawindi, we learnt of the plight of the Batwa and the Kagezi tribal groups. Now, the Batwa are used to be very un-PC, used to be called the Pygmy tribes. The Batwa are one of the oldest groups of people on Earth, and actually on the African continent. And the Batwa have lived side by side in the equatorial rainforest with its wildlife for millennia, and actually what happened was, going to be a bit political here, but the Ugandan Wildlife Authority, in their infinite wisdom, decided to evict the Batwa and Kagezi from the tropical forest, and to conserve it purely for the mountain gorillas. The mountain gorillas were being hunted not largely by the tribal groups. They were being killed for sport as much as anything else. We're capable of some barbaric things as human beings. But actually, cut a long story short, the Batwa were evicted, and we had dialogue with some of the elders in 2016 and asked, again, go and listen. Go and ask the question, but listen, and don't come with preformed judgmental ideas. Is the theme really of our. So, because my work is about education for sustainable development. What can we nudge now that doesn't impact on the future, but actually improves lives of those less fortunate than ourselves? And we went to listen to the elders, and it's brilliant. I'm 5'6", and so I felt tall for the first time in my life. And you can picture these scenes. And again, you go as a photographer as well, and you're with a mandate of one to go and work with. So you're afforded images that tourists are not allowed, not afforded. So you got these beautiful images of these wonderful old community members with almost skin like carved ebony and big toes like something from the feet like something from the Lord of the Rings. It's amazing, absolutely beautiful. But I don't mean that in a disparaging way at all. I mean in a very affectionate way. But actually, you go and you listen, and what came from, I said, well, so what are you missing the most from being evicted? Because, of course, the forest was their work. Yeah. It was their play. It was their larder, but it was also their pharmacy. And it was the latter that they picked upon. They said, we can't get to our medicinal plants.
Okay.
We can't get to the trees and shrubs. So we actually work with a number of community organizations and came across and many communities have just shining lights, community angels, community champions. and Gerald is our community champion, and we said, Gerald, come on, we've got a calling here. We've got to really do something about this, and so we actually purchased a parcel of land, which Westerners had planted eucalyptus forests. So anybody that knows anything about permaculture or conservation agriculture or any kind of nurture of the land, eucalyptus are not the way to go. And to replace pristine equatorial rainforest with a monoculture of eucalyptus, is just it's just barbaric.
Biodiversity
So we went in and we said, right, we're going to purchase this land. We're going to knock down all the trees. We're going to use them as fence poles, and we're actually going to demarc a pocket forest pharmacy.
Beautiful. And
so we then actually bought saplings of all of the species that the elders said we want to plant, and we've actually made a pocket forest pharmacy, but it's also a food forest. Because what we've also done is we've looked at the different large trees that are going to grow, and we've underplanted them with banana and also with single origin coffee and high quality coffee. And we've actually, our vision for this part of Bawindi is to actually have a reception center whereby we can do a bean to cup coffee experience for visitors who have gone to the forest. They've had this extraordinary, and it is truly a beautiful experience to go and have your hour with the mountain gorillas. It's an absolutely mesmerizing experience. But then if we can get a percentage of the footfall that come to do that, to come to this space, and we're wanting to make a little veranda and a reception center where we can actually have the Batwa and the Kagezi sharing, their knowledge of the plants and the herbs and so forth with the visitor, whilst having a cup of coffee from the land as well. So that's our vision. So we're looking for funding to actually create this place, and also. And it would be great to make the cook bags in the space also.
Oh yes,
because and at the moment we are, but only in tiny numbers.
Okay,
we want to scale that up in that space too. But yeah, so and actually that is not only conservation, it's anthropology as well. There's elements of that too. Keeping this knowledge alive is so important, because, as you said earlier, we know a fraction of we know where a lot of pharmaceuticals come from, but actually there'll be people in that community that know way more than we do.
Such a valuable tap of knowledge, not only for within those communities, but for the world as a whole, potentially. I think that's a perfect place to leave this.
Okay.
And say a massive, massive heartfelt thank you to you, Ken.
Sorry for getting emotional, crikey.
Please, no, don't apologise. It shows everybody out there your true passion and how much of your life's work this truly is, and how grateful I am to you for you being here today. And I'm going to make sure that every single one of the links and video clips and images and everything go in the show reel and the description for this. So that this word gets out as much as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers.